This place got a new face, killing Joe's face. Got a Joe thing, chilling in a new fade. Blue space in a new place, what did he say? He done tic-tac, feeling like a true play. Step back and I never say no. I was winning over there, now I'm spinning out of flow. Got a feeling in the air, but I'm feeling kinda low. Got a ceiling over here, and I think it's gonna blow. Hey, this place got a new face, killing Joe's face.
Yo. Good morning, everybody. Man. What's today? Tuesday? No, yeah, Tuesday? Yeah. Good morning, y'all. What you watching? I know I was supposed to put a video out last night, but your homie was tired. I was working on music all day yesterday. Let me put on my blue blockers. I was working on music all day yesterday. Well, not all day, but most of the day. And got another project going. You know, got situated. I didn't want to shoot a video when I was like more on the tired side of things, because the way I warm up for videos, the way I warm up for videos is I watch other reactors. And, you know, I kind of talk along with the video. And that helps me get into the swing of talking during watching something, you know, because you can sit and watch something all day. And you got to get into, for me, it helps for me to start warming up beforehand. Man, the blue blockers is dirty today. I need to wash my daggone felt, too. A little cloth. You know, glasses cleaner cloths that come with when you get glasses for whatever reason. Sunglasses, eyeglasses. Yeah, I think this thing that'll wash too. Anywho, today's video, as promised, we're going to look at why the U.S. prison system is the worst in the developed world. I used to work in the prison system, so I have some insight on this. I was a kitchen supervisor. They would send me a dozen inmates. You know, there was a designated crew, you know, that sign up. You know, I can't have anybody that's like ridiculously violent down there because we got knives. But there has been some cases where we have had violent offenders that didn't do violent things. You know, as far as like their time in the kitchen. I ran a pretty normal feeling kitchen. I didn't make it seem like it was jail, you know. I expected something out of crew, and they expected something out of me, and we just kept it 100. As you know, as far as the whole criminal system goes, we had a criminal code, I guess. I don't know what to call it, but I didn't have many problems. We only had one person get tuned up, and they kept it amongst themselves, so it didn't make any extra paperwork for me. So that was my number one rule: don't make me make extra paperwork, because I hate paperwork. Don't get my attention, you know. Things, you know, jail talk. All right, so we're going to get on with this video. I've already been talking a few minutes. But that's how it goes sometimes. Good morning, y'all. I'm AquaTheOG, and you should get to know me, because we do things. We're climbing for that 1,000 mark. I want to hit that 1,000 mark, something bad. Yo, the growth around here has been freaking blowing me away. I ain't never had growth this much, this fat. Dude, it took me over a year to get my first 100 just to be able to change the URL of this channel. I was going to say stream. Of this channel. But in the last, week and a half? Maybe 2 weeks? 2 weeks probably tops. I've already hit that next 100. We're almost at a 200 mark. I'm like, dude, this is freaking... Y'all killing it. Y'all blowing me away. I can't say thank you enough. That's why I don't mind getting up early and shooting these videos. I'm a makeup video? Cool. I'm cool with that. All right, I'm babbling again this morning. You got to let me get it out. You just got to let me get it out. Sometimes I just got to get it out. I'm an introvert, so this is the most talking I do sometimes in a day. Okay, let's get it going.
video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought.
Check out
You'll
Second
often
Thoughts
hear
channel
the
too.
claim that the United States is the freest place on earth, a bastion of personal and societal freedom. For such
you
a
hear that a lot.
supposedly free nation, we sure have a lot of people behind bars. While
Yeah.
many rights and freedoms have been stripped away over the past few decades, from freedom of the press to freedom of assembly,
The reason that there's so many people locked up behind bars is because it's the new slavery. There's laws that are in place that strip you of your rights as long as you're an inmate. You're basically a slave. What they do is they have these inmates, like the kitchen crew I just mentioned. You know how much those guys was making a day? 35 cents a day. And you know how much commissary was? It was like $2, $3 a bag of chips. We're talking about the little plain Lays. The little bag of plain Lays. Dude, it's like $2, $3 for... That's crazy.
in this video, we're going to focus specifically on the US prison system, a system that, by just about every metric, is the worst in the developed world. Let's start with some basic facts. The US has the most incarcerated people of any nation on Earth, both by sheer numbers and per capita. As of June 2020, there were 2,121,000 prisoners currently serving time in the US.
Notice my surprise? None. I'm actually shocked it's not more than that. Them mofos tried to get me one time. I was like, no, hell no. Nah, I'm too smart for that.
And a total of over 10 million in the prison system, which includes those waiting for trial and those on parole. This number is higher than nations with vastly larger populations, like China and India. It's higher than countries the US considers more authoritarian, like Russia or, again, China.
Yeah, he said a mouthful right there. It's higher than authoritarian countries. Yet we're the ones that are supposed to be the standard for how you treat people. We got the worst fucking treatment of people. One of those people was me. Especially when it comes to cops. Dude, I ain't afraid of cops, but I don't do cops. Nah.
Even higher than the greatest of all boogeymen, the Soviet Union, at the height of Stalin's power.
Yeah, the boogeyman.
As for our per capita rating, the US incarcerates roughly 655 people per 100,000. No
Not
other
surprised.
OECD nation comes close. The UK sits at 140, Canada 107, France 105, Germany 77.
Number one. Look at the architecture. Holy shit, Germany. Y'all, hey, give me a second. I gotta take this in. Look at that architecture. Holy. Wow. You got to excuse me for a second. This is beautiful. This is the Germany that we don't really get to see over here in the States, because all you hear about Germany is rah, 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 and all that bullshit from the World War II. They already made that mistake. They passed that. Germans ain't the same. You get out of that's that old thought that I was talking about like a couple videos ago. They want to keep you in the red October, like we still living in that time period with the whole Russia's the big yada yada yada, and then you got Germany who was yada yada yada. I'm like, have you met any Russians? I have. They're pretty damn badass. Have you met Germans? I have. They're pretty damn badass. I don't think those countries have that same reputation. That's that archaic thought. That's what's holding people back. That's why they calling people who don't want to be in that thought progressives. That's not progressives. It's right now is. All right, I'm going on a rant.
China
But
barely
damn.
cracks 150.
Whoa. China, the one who's supposed to be the big evil. Well, actually, they put you in and you get a special job. That's why they don't put you in prison. You get a special job. At least from what I hear. I've never been to China, and I've never been an inmate in China.
All the countries the US likes to cast as authoritarian hellholes,
keep it that
every single one of them
Damn,
incarcerates
Cuba.
fewer people and often in far more humane facilities. The US represents 4% of the total world population, but 22% of the world's prison population. When you
That's
talk
that
about
imperialism.
prison and prisoners, all the racists tend to come out of the
capitalism.
woodwork and say things like, well, those
Need
other
workers.
places are all one race, and immigrants are just inherently criminal. Of course, these statements have no basis in reality. Among roughly equally diverse nations and countries with similarly sized immigrant populations, our incarceration rate is still vastly higher in every case. We also need to remind these people that white people go to jail too. They're just let off the hook far more frequently than any other race. But we'll get to that later. Now that you have an idea of just how much of an obsession
The fact that he had to throw that in there tells you a lot without saying it a lot.
we have with locking people up, let's talk about some specifics. If you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that I identify one common thread that ties together all of the worst tendencies of the American empire: profit. Everything is driven by the insatiable urge to accumulate greater and greater sums of money. The stock market demands perpetual growth. Corporations must make more this year than they did last year. The prison industrial complex is no different. We tend to think of prisons as self-contained entities, cruel but untainted by the tendrils of capitalism. This is not the case.
It's absolutely the opposite.
Companies have always been eager to work with prisons to increase their profits. The companies that provide food to prisoners are only too happy to sell nutritionally deficient slop to the prison industrial complex. It's cheap.
Dude, let me tell you about the prison food I had to cook. We get these, they're like 25-pound boxes, maybe 50-pound boxes. I think they're more like 25-pound boxes of frozen turkey meat. Ground frozen mystery turkey meat. I don't even know if it's turkey. We gotta put these things in these big ass 100-gallon steam kettles. Everything is cooked by steam or in an oven. It is, man, you dump all these still frozen boxes of turkey meat into these kettles, run some water on it, steam that up. Then you throw the little bit of ingredients that goes with it, maybe some pre-diced peppers, some bell peppers or something like that. And then all the other stuff. For seasoning, you know what they had us doing? All right, now take in mind, we got 100 gallons of at least liquid and molten meat and whatever vegetables we had to throw in. 100 gallons of this thing. They talking about 1 cup of salt. If you know anything about cooking, 1 cup of salt is not going to make a difference in 100 gallons of whatever you want to call that product. 1 cup? Man, I couldn't do that. Not as no professional. Not as somebody who gives a damn about flavor. I was seasoning that stuff up. I'm like, because we get seasoning it in like boxes like this with a bag in it, and you just have to, make do with the bag not spilling all the way open. But man, I'd have to say I regret having to taste food from being in locked up, but I couldn't let that go out unflavored. And me and one other cook was the same way. We took too much pride in our food to let that go out. Even if it's jail, I mean, them is still humans. You gotta, come on. Like, that was where I drew the line, was the flavor. So for my kitchen inmates, you know how people who don't give a damn about their job and don't give a damn about the people you're working with will do things like reward. Your only reward for working that day would be like a bag of chips or something like that. I would take and use some of the extra stuff, and I would go and make an extra meal for the kitchen crew that you had to be on the kitchen crew, and you had to have put in your work to be able to eat. Because if you didn't work, you wasn't eating. You get the state meal, is what we call it, state tray. You ate, but you got a state tray. If you did your work and you ain't give me no problems, you got what I was cooking off on the side. I was being creative with the food they already had there. Like, I was taking the hot dogs that we had there, and I was like whipping up the cornmeal and stuff like that, and making like corn dogs and stuff like that. We was making it worth it. I'm pretty creative when it comes to a bite to eat, because I've been poor before. So you learn that trait. Anyway,
cheap to produce and nets them a healthy profit. The phone companies that provide basic call functionality to prisoners charge exorbitant pay-per-minute rates because they know how desperate these poor people are to speak to their loved ones. Transportation companies make a killing shuttling prisoners to and from court appearances and between prisons. But more egregious than these examples is the practice of modern-day slavery. You've probably heard that the state of California routinely puts inmates to work fighting fires.
Chain gang.
Do you know what they're paid for putting their lives on the line? $2 per day, or $2 per hour when they're active.
$2 a day. A day. You fighting forest fires. $2 a day. You know what? If you had me out there fighting a forest fire for $2 a day, I'm outside and I'm damn sure thinking about escape.
Fighting fires. The minimum wage in the US is $7.25 per hour, which
And
is
that's a damn
already
shame
absurdly low and has been determined not to be a livable wage. Prisoners are paid $2 per hour at best for their labor, less than 1/3 of the federal minimum wage. But wait, it gets worse. Incarcerated people have their own minimum wage. Care to guess what it is? It's not $2, it's 12 cents per hour. Some states,
If a mofo ever offered me 12 cents an hour, you don't exist in my world. I'm gonna forget we met. You did not just say that. 12 cents an hour? You better go get some sense.
including my home state of Texas, do not require incarcerated workers to be paid at all. Would you
Damn.
sell an hour of your life for 12 cents? Of course you
Hell
wouldn't.
nah.
But the people trapped in the prison system have no choice in the matter. They are required to do the work that is demanded of them. This
Yeah, we
is
talking
slavery.
about China sweatshops.
In the past year, inmates have been put to work manufacturing hand sanitizer and PPE, washing hospital laundry, and digging mass graves for COVID victims. In normal years, they provide forced labor for thousands of US corporations, including big names
Hear that? Forced labor.
like McDonald's, Wendy's, Tyson, Verizon, Sprint, Fidelity, Walmart, JCPenney, and IBM. Angry yet? It still gets worse. With each
IBM.
passing year, America finds new
the
ways
hell?
to extract profits from human life. Let's talk about private prisons. As the war on drugs ramped up in the 1980s,
This dude right here was one of the worst things to happen to black people. This dude right here, America reveres as, oh, he was a great president, yada, yada, yada. You had to be on the right side for him to be a great president. Because the policies that he had, man, this war on drugs is a whole fox.
federal prisons began to become overcrowded. The solution? Turn to the private sector to build new prisons for all this excess human inventory. The government contracts a private company to build the prisons, that company locks up the overflow prisoners, and in exchange they receive a fixed rate for each inmate. They are paid for each person they imprison. See the problem here? The prison slave labor market is a financial incentive not to pursue prison reform. It would damage the profits of thousands of US companies. But by adding for-profit prisons into the mix, cutting out the middleman, and simply making money off of human storage units, we've ensured that no meaningful reform will ever pass, at least not without a mass movement to demand it. Think about it. Who profits from the existence of private prisons? Private companies are given multi-hundred-million-dollar contracts, then their executives
Multi-hundred million.
turn around and donate huge sums of that same money to politicians who will support private prisons.
There he is right there, Bitch McConnell. I can't stand that man. Why is he still in office? Because America still got ignorance. That set of people right there need to go. All four of y'all. I don't care what good you did. You too old to be there. Your thoughts is too archaic. You need to go. Some people's trying to be progressive, but they ain't like we want it. Red tie and blue tie. Yeah, that right there tells you who's lying and who. Look at the tie colors. It's the same ones as those tie colors that I was talking about back in the other video. Red, blue, and yellow. Those was the main ones. All those news reporters. So I'm guessing the dude with the red tie has to do the talking today because Bitch McConnell only has the blue tie on. So he usually wears red when he's speaking.
It's a never-ending cycle. Corrupt politicians are
Notice they keep showing them with corrupt politicians. Let's guess what they try to tell us. Look at these. I can't stand none of them. all of them look like they should be on the coin with the slave owners that's already on there.
Making money, private prisons are making money, and thousands of US companies are making money from literal slave labor. It makes perfect sense within the US capitalist framework. CoreCivic, formerly Corrections Corporation of America, is the largest private prison.
Corrections Corporation of America? What the hell is that? Corrections Corporation?
Manager in the country.
The damn
In 2019, they raked in $1.98 billion in revenue, all on the backs of exploited human beings, stuffed into their prisons with a price tag on each one. What's even more ridiculous is that the vast majority of the private prison contracts contain a lockup quota. That is, a guaranteed percentage of occupancy for the duration of the agreement. Most of these quotas are set at 90% occupancy, with some even landing an insane 100%. So, in a time when crime rates are the lowest they've been in decades, these private prisons are guaranteed to have their cells filled. If those cells aren't filled, they're still paid as if they were. And
that's why they send you to jail for jaywalking and make up crimes and all these false DUIs and all these freaking setups of narcotics and all of that shit ain't real.
Guess who pays the bill? US taxpayers. There was one hideous incident in 2008 which became known as the Kids for Cash scandal. 2 judges in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania were found to have been accepting bribes from for-profit correctional facilities to dole out ridiculously harsh sentences for minors.
I remember that.
Thousands of children were slapped with extended stays in these private facilities for crimes as minor as making fun of their assistant principal on MySpace. There are few things more depraved than putting innocent children in jail to line your own pocket. So, to recap, the US started the war on drugs which US groups like the CIA were shuttling into the country, began locking people up.
Yeah. Oh, did you catch that part? Drugs on which the CIA was bringing into the country. Them some of the main drug dealers.
At unprecedented rates for nonviolent drug offenses, realized we had literally run out of all of our prison space, and decided to contract out private companies in order to lock up more people, and then paid those companies to incarcerate even more people. This system is absurd by any reasonable estimation, and we still haven't even discussed whether or not it's effective. To make a long story short, no, it's not effective. In the United States, we focus more on punishment than rehabilitation, and US prisons are certainly punishment. In fact, they're so inhumane that the United Nations has condemned them as abusive and torturous. And
the United Nations. Your jails are so bad that the United Nations had to step in and say you're fucking up. I'm sorry, I'm cussing a little bit more in this one, but this one, because I've seen what happens in jails. I've seen on both sides of what happens in the jails. It's freaking wild, yo. You wouldn't believe it. Like long term, if you go there short term, you'll find out some stuff. But if you're in there long term, like a year plus, man, you get some wild stories I could tell you. And I've been pepper sprayed a few times too, unintentionally.
And human rights organizations have long asserted that one of the prison industrial complex's favorite tools, solitary confinement, is literal torture. Once someone has...
You know what solitary confinement is? Exactly that. You're in a small cell by yourself. Nothing. I'm not even sure how much clothes, but you do have some. But solitary confinement, man. There was that thing where we was over in Afghanistan, and they were talking about how prisoners of war or whatever they was there for was being waterboarded and stuff like that. If you look at stuff like this, you damn right they was being waterboarded. Do you think the prison system, American prison system, gives a damn about torturing somebody? The UN had to step in. The torture, the use of solitary confinement in prisons is a normal thing. It's craziness.
Has been released from prison, it's much harder to find a job. And
yeah, because once you have that mark on your record, you can't do nothing. You can't do nothing. I have a misdemeanor on mine for self-defense. because dude tried to jump me and he wasn't as good as he didn't have them hands. He found out I had them hands. I got a misdemeanor for that. That's crazy. That's when they tried to get me. I can go into a whole nother story on what the hell happened with that one. That's a long story. Interesting story, but it's a long story. And it points out exactly how corrupt the police system is, how corrupt the court system is, because the judge told me I actually won my case. They told the state prosecutor that they had they failed their burden of proof, but because of the damage that was done to the person who was assaulting me, I ended up having to suffer with a misdemeanor on my stuff. That's craziness.
2 out of 3 end up right back in a cell because their situation is so desperate. We've even seen people commit tiny crimes and purposefully get arrested because then at least they'd have a roof over their heads. When many Americans hear this, they'll shake their heads and say, you just can't fix some people, completely ignoring the fact that our prison system is not intended to fix anything. Again, this fits in perfectly with the average American mindset. Most people subjected to prison terms are poor. In America, we've been conditioned to believe that poor people are lazy and therefore morally deficient and deserving of punishment.
That is completely not true. Because when I was in charge of hiring people, I hired lazy people. Why? Because lazy people is going to find the easiest way to get it done the most efficient. Lazy is not efficient. Lazy is not a bad thing. Lazy is efficient. The way I see it, hey, if you got the job done right, you found the best way to do it because you didn't really want to do it. Don't sit there and act like you ain't never had no lazy moment and thought of an easier way to do something.
This, of course, ignores the fact that wealthy people are just as likely or even more likely to use drugs. But those people are rarely sentenced, often because they have important parents, or they can pay bail, or simply because their communities aren't heavily policed like lower income areas.
Oh my
We've
God.
effectively criminalized poverty. Can't pay a parking ticket? Jail. Can't pay bail? Prison term. No one will hire you when you get out? Serves you right for being a criminal. This mindset is truly horrific. It lacks even the barest shred of basic human decency. We cannot ignore the fact that systemic racism plays a large role in the American prison system. 2 men, 1 white and 1 black, charged for the same crime with the same criminal background, are often given different length prison sentences. Can you guess who gets the longer sentence? On average,
let's take a guess here. Time's up.
Black people are given 20% longer sentences for the same crime committed by a white person. Then you have white-collar crime. Banks have engaged in money laundering for drug cartels and other shady operations for years, bankrolling the very industry we throw people away for, and they caused the single largest economic crash since the Great Depression. Did any bankers get locked up for any significant time? Of course not. There are 2 separate justice systems in this country, one for the rich and one for everyone else. Okay, but what's the alternative? It's not fair to complain and then not propose a better way. Luckily for me, I don't have to come up with an entirely new system. Plenty of vastly more humane, more modern, and more effective prison systems already exist. One shining example is Norway, with an incarceration...
Dude, he said Norway. That was actually going to be my next jail video, because somebody in the last video said you should check out Norway's jail system. And I was like, Norway's jail system? I never thought of that. I never actually thought of Norway having jails. Now he just brought it up. Oh yeah, we definitely checking that out. I already found a couple videos too. Man, what is going on in Norway that more than... Do we need some... Yeah, we gotta look at that one. That's twice it then came up? Yeah.
Rate of just 60 per 100,000. Norway stands out as a prime example after which we could model our own prison system. Norway's criminal justice system focuses not on punishment like we do in the US, but on rehabilitation and the principle of restorative...
Look at the building. It already looks different. Look at the inside of it. Wow. I'm impressed by... I can't help but to say. I'm impressed by a prison. Look at how nice it looks. Words I never thought I'd string together. He looks like you could actually like say something to him and he won't give you a jackass response. You know, I mean, like not being a smartass, but I'm saying like if you said something good morning or something, you might not get shut the fuck up, blah 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 blah. You know, the racial shit comes out. But dude, Norway? What y'all doing?
Of justice. The Norwegian criminal justice system caps prison sentences at
Wait. The toilets are not made of stainless steel? The sink is porcelain? Hold on. Look how clean it is. Let's start there. Look how clean it is. Tile walls. I ain't seen a brick yet.
21 years and does not allow the death penalty. Whereas prisons in the US look more or less like slightly updated medieval dungeons, Norwegian prisons are quite different.
Look
This
at
footage
place.
is from Halden
There's
Prison, which was
paperwork.
completed in 2010 and is representative of Norway's incarceration philosophy.
They got a waiting
Everything
room
is
there.
intended
Damn,
to
did you
foster
see
an
the waiting
environment of
room?
improvement for their inmates. The rooms are
I'm going to prison in Norway. Let's not say that out loud. Let me knock on some wood or something. I ain't got no wood around here. Damn. Wife gonna come in here thinking somebody at the door. Look at this. Damn, he got an intercom system in his. This is like a resort. That's like a stateroom on a boat. He got pictures on his bed. That's contraband. He got a coffee maker. That's contraband. Shit. Is that a sweater? That's a halfway decent looking sweater. He get to wear name brands? Is that Latigra? What?
reasonably comfortable and furnished with
Reasonably comfortable? Dude, look at, he got, this man sporting his Adidas up in the jail. I'm an Adidas enthusiast. I like Adidas. This man
quality of
got
life features
books
like
to
DVD
read.
players and TVs. The inmates can roam more or less freely, wear normal clothes, and make use of common areas and kitchens. There's a
Damn.
store where they can buy their own food. The architecture is specifically designed to allow those inside to see out into nature and observe the passage of time. US
Damn.
prisons, by contrast, are made as oppressive as possible.
Dude.
Little light
Look at the difference. Look at the difference. Damn. Man, you know how hard it was to go to, how hard it was to get up and force yourself to go to work in a place that looked like this? It was hard. I only did it for a year, but it was hard. And that 1 year, I saw an inmate die. I know of 3 officers that died. 2 of was captains. There was a big shakeup. There was I saw a big sting. Well, not a big sting because it was a big court case and everybody was on camera that was involved. The treatment of one of the inmates resulted in his death, and there was like 10 to 20 officers that was on scene involved in this. It was crazy. It was madness. It was on YouTube too. The film from the surveillance film from inside the jail had leaked onto YouTube. How the hell that got that? I don't even know how the hell that happened. But when I heard about it, I was like, hell no, that's not on YouTube, is it? Went and looked. It was on YouTube, the whole damn thing. I was like, are you crazy? This is wild. And then next thing you know, officers start disappearing. They was either demoted or let go. And then it resulted in a couple of suicides. It was crazy. When you work in a jail, there is a heavy, heavy, dark cloud of misery in that entire place, and it just sticks to you, and then you just as soon as you get home, you just want to shower and eat ramen noodles because it gets into your mind, and next thing you know, you start picking up some of the inmate habits, like doing things at home that you wouldn't normally do, like putting shit in ramen noodles that you wouldn't normally do. You're like, wait, what the hell? What am I doing? This is starting to seep into my psyche. That's not a place man. Do not work in a jail if you can help it. Do not go to jail or prison if you can help it. I never been in there, but I came close.
Light from the outside world, cramped corridors, tiny, uncomfortable cells, and a relationship with the guards which can only be called antagonistic.
Oh my God. This dude is hitting it on even I had problems with the guards. I got along better with the inmates than I did with the guards, because the guards were just mostly, about 90% of them was disrespectful as all hell every time they opened their mouth. 90%. There was like the 10% that I actually like was cool with. When we see each other, it was like, hey, what you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I may have a quick conversation or something. You don't want to be too friendly, but, cordial. There was this one, me and him was like fire and gas. He always came at me and I always gave it back to him. He used to come at me like I was one of the inmates. This dude had it out for me. One time, he came up in the kitchen, not knowing how I am in the kitchen. If I'm a supervisor in a jail kitchen, nobody's going to come in there and tell me that to stand down. No, not when you was the one who escalating the problem. This guard came in here. He was part of the turtle team. And what the turtle team is they wore green coverall suits with their vest of whatever it was supposed to be. It wasn't a bulletproof vest. Maybe it was a stab-proof vest or something like that. But they were the ones who shot you with rubber bullets and stuff like that if you was acting up. This one came in. He always had an issue with me. He decided to walk his little narrow ass up in the kitchen one time. I told the inmate to do something, and he gonna come in there telling the inmate to do something else. And I'm like, no. On this side of the door, I rule. On that side of the door, you rule. Wow, rah, rah, rah. He come up in the kitchen yelling at me. That stood over his ass. I'm 6'4". He's like 5'9". I stood over his ass. I said, you know what? I'm not wearing an inmate outfit. You don't see this in orange and blue. I'm wearing a black chef coat. I walk out of here just like you walk out of here. You don't have anything to talk to me about. I have as much as you have in this damn kitchen. I'm the supervisor. You won't be talking to me up in here, especially not in front of my crew. No, I don't think so. I said a lot more than that, but that was where I was going with it. Them guards, they terrible up in there. They is terrible. I'm telling you, them inmates are not lying about what them guards is doing. I've seen it. It is crazy. Them inmates are not bullshitting.
That's another area where Norwegian prisons excel. Their correctional officers all complete a 2-year degree before they're able to work as what are called contact officers, which function as both guard and social worker. Halden Prison prides itself on fostering excellent interpersonal relationships between inmates and contact officers. They can interact freely, talk, play cards, make plans for the future, and just generally have a normal human experience in the prison.
How do you have a human experience in the prison? What do you have to do to go to prison in Norway? Norway. I don't know what I was thinking, but if prison is that nice, how much of an ass were you to society to get sent somewhere nice to nicen up? I'm blown the freak away.
Prison. This is all part of the philosophy of normality. The idea is to make prison as close to life in the outside world as possible, so that when inmates have served their time, they're able to more easily adjust back to normal life. Again, this is in stark contrast to the US system. The goal of our system is to punish, to make people suffer so that they're afraid to commit another crime. Corrections officers in the US have very little required training, and relationships between guards and prisoners are truly awful. It's not uncommon for guards to brutalize or sexually assault the inmates. This cruelty
Look
is
at this.
completely counterproductive. If the goal of our prisons was
this.
truly to rehabilitate,
Disgusting.
why have the guards, the only representatives from the outside world, treat the inmates like
And
animals?
they turn around and be
Norway's
cops.
recidivism
Or they were
rates are among the
cops.
lowest in the world, with just 20% of inmates
just
getting
interchange
arrested
back
again
and
within
forth.
2 years. This isn't random. It came about by a concerted effort from Norwegian citizens to overhaul their criminal justice system. Back in the 80s and 90s, they were concerned about rising recidivism rates. So they did the logical thing and fixed the problem: the prisons. Modern Norwegian prisons are some of the very best in the world in terms of reducing recidivism and promoting a positive trajectory for inmates. They provide counseling, education, and as normal an experience as possible. What they've accomplished in the last few decades is truly remarkable, and should be seen as one of the world's best criminal justice systems. Another prime example is Finland. Finland is one of the happiest and safest countries in the world.
Dude, every time I hear something about Finland, I hear Finland is the shit. Matter of fact, hold on. Do I have that written on the list? I got Norway on the list. Finland. I don't know how I didn't say Finland a long time ago. I keep hearing Finland is the shit. Man. Hey, you know what? I grew up in a land of snow. We have major freaking snowfall where I grew up at. I ain't against going somewhere that is known to be cold. I mean, not year round. I need some warmth. I'm too tropical for year round snow. But I'm saying, if y'all got a nice, decent summer and spring, I'm in.
World. They have access to universal health care, subsidized childcare,
Man.
and free college education. They
Free
also
college?
have incredibly humane prisons. This man, serving a life sentence for murder, is not confined to a tiny cell for the rest of his life.
So y'all do have murderers over there.
They also have incredibly humane prisons. This man, serving a life sentence.
Interesting. I wonder what the details on that murder was. Did he just go out and do it? Or was there a fight and it accidentally happened? Or... Damn. Looks like a guy going to work to me.
Sentence for murder is not confined to a tiny cell for the rest of his life. He's not waiting for a lethal injection or months of solitary confinement.
Look, motherfucker, he got manners and shit.
He's free to come and go as he pleases, and there aren't any cell blocks at all. Instead, the prison is laid out like a dormitory. He can attend classes at the local university, and his room at Loka prison is almost indistinguishable from a normal apartment. Like Norway, Finland believes in the principle of normality, that prisoners should be treated like human beings and provided all the opportunities to improve themselves and get on a more productive path during their prison stay. Inmates
Imagine
receive
that.
counseling, job training, and interact with prison staff in a normal, human fashion. Because of these innovations and a dedication to actual rehabilitation, Finland's incarceration rate has dropped dramatically over the last 70 years, to just 1/4 of what it was in 1950, and it's now one of the lowest in Europe. By comparison, the US prison population has skyrocketed.
Damn. Excuse me.
In that
That's
same
crazy.
period, despite our own crime rate dropping. Just to give you a sense of how barbaric and
Yeah.
outdated our prison system seems to other developed nations, Finland now operates a prison museum in one of their old 19th century prisons, as a sort of reminder of how terrible their system used to be. It is almost in
Damn, that looks exactly like the ones here. Hey, they got Christmas lights? Damn, they even got Christmas lights. They still festive. That was their worst thing, and they got Christmas lights.
distinguishable from a modern US prison. It's clear that the US has a long way to go before it can be
They got a net up there for people throw people over.
considered a truly free nation. Our
Dude, that looks exactly like a jail bed. You get a little thin cot about that. You might as well be laying a little punk ass blanket down on there. You get more padding out of a little beat up blanket to give you more padding than them cot pads. I seen them bad boys.
Horrific prison industrial complex is a permanent stain on this country's legacy.
That's crazy. Go back to that. Look at this. This is damn ridiculous. Look at that. You know, number 2 is Russia, and they still way behind. All the countries that we talk about over here, oh, they got problems, blah, 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 blah. We're the best. You know, all the rhetoric that you hear about, we're the best. The best at locking people up.
Legacy. The
Look at that.
systemic racism, use of slave labor, inhumane treatment, and outright torture of prisoners, and the commodification of human lives to be locked up in order to increase profits is truly wrong in every way. If we're actually angered by this and really want to make a change, we have positive examples to point to and say, this is what we want. It won't happen by itself. The only way things will change is the only way things have ever changed. By enough people coming together to say, enough is enough. We're trying something new. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this kind of...
That's crazy. Damn. Damn. That's wild. Well, my mind is blown. Prison in Norway is... Damn. All right. Well, I'm at a loss for freaking words. That one was, Norway? Damn. Okay. I don't even have an ending. I'm like fully impressed by that. Hit up Second Thought. Hit their channel up and check out some more of their videos. They got a lot of videos. That's good. I'm going to be checking out a lot of their videos. I'm going to be sticking with Second Thought for a minute. So y'all might as well get used to them. Wow. Yeah, I'm a Korean OG and my mind is BLOWN. I almost spelled that wrong. I ain't gonna lie. Yo. Hey. Let me get this edited and sent out to y'all. I'm OG is OUT. Deuces on the flips. Man.
Somebody's bad.